The waves whispered to the sand, their powerful surge creating a symphony as they met the land. The gentle calls of birds resonated around me, their melodies accompanying my steps on the sun-kissed beach that morning. The world seemed cocooned in serenity during these early walks of mine, but in an instant, tranquility shattered. As I reached for a stunning piece of coral, my golden retriever Leo bolted, pulling the leash right out of my grasp. His sprint took me by surprise. "Leo!" I shouted repeatedly, yet he seemed deaf to my calls. Abruptly, he halted, his attention caught by something buried in the sand. Nose working diligently, he shifted tiny pebbles, then erupted into a fervent bout of barking. My heart raced with confusion. Leo's behavior was baffling. It was almost as if we were in an odd dream. Leo had always been obedient, making his sudden defiance even more perplexing. Our daily beach walks had become routine, strolls where I would gather shells for a special purpose. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a simple hobby, but those shells represented hope for my mother and me. To make ends meet, I transformed them into jewelry, selling my creations at the local market every Sunday. But today's collection was sparse, and Leo's interruption meant I might return empty-handed. The weight of disappointment pressed on me. I was pressed for time and not in the mood for Leo's sudden antics. I hastened over and seized him by the collar. "Seriously, Leo?" I exclaimed, frustration evident in my voice. My gaze then fell on the source of his bizarre behavior, a massive object protruding from the sand that he had unearthed. My initial instinct was to retreat. The odor emanating from it was nauseating, a pungent mix reminiscent of rotten garbage and vomit. Suppressing a gag, I covered my nose. "Enough of this, Leo. Let's head back," I urged, tugging at his collar. Yet he remained stubbornly rooted, captivated by his find. Resigned, I stepped back, thinking I'd give him a few minutes, hoping he'd lose interest. But as minutes stretched on, Leo remained fixated and my impatience grew. "All right, have it your way," I muttered, approaching him again. Deeming it best to just take the object with us so I could finally leave, I removed my jacket, wrapping the offensively odorous stone inside it. The object was surprisingly weighty, straining my muscles as I hoisted it. But with a bit of effort, I managed to stow it in my bag. Upon seeing that I had secured his newfound treasure, Leo bounded over, allowing us to finally head home. After placing it in the backyard, where Leo amusingly engaged with it for hours, I mentally shelved the occurrence. It was easy to forget about such trivial things when life's larger trials loomed large. Just 6 months prior, my father had departed, leaving my mother for another life, another woman. He vanished to some distant corner of the country, leaving behind nothing but silence. With his absence, our finances crumbled. To sustain ourselves, we sold off possessions that held memories of brighter days. Yet the assets dwindled, and the next day delivered a chilling reality. Mom handed me an envelope. The words within made my heart plummet, an eviction notice. Grief welled up. First my father, and now our home. The twin pillars of my life were crumbling. Everything was in chaos. In what felt like a blink, my mom and I were gathering our scant belongings, seeking refuge in a shelter. It might seem trivial, but amidst our limited possessions, I carried the stone. It was Leo's favorite after all. Thus, my world had shrunk to just my mother, Leo, a handful of personal items, and that peculiar rock. The shelter, while far from luxurious, provided the essentials, shelter and relative safety. Still, it was leagues better than braving the elements outside. But the environment was challenging, with many of the residents grappling with untreated mental health issues. Nights were often punctuated with unsettling cries and outbursts. One morning, an elderly man, his breath ragged with a persistent cough, wandered into our quarters. He stood there, transfixed by Leo, who was nuzzled against the stone. Fear gripped me as I clutched my mom, both of us waiting for the man to retreat. But he remained. "What are you looking at?" I demanded. He gestured towards the stone, which seemed utterly inconsequential to me. Mockingly, I proposed, "Want to buy it?" To my astonishment, the man's demeanor shifted, his eyes ignited with keen interest, fervently nodding. Assuming he was just another resident lost in his own world, my mother and I exchanged chuckles, but our amusement swiftly faded when the man's face contorted in anger. The intensity in his eyes was undeniable as he reached into his pocket, producing a wad of bills. In this unlikely place, the sheer amount of money he was brandishing seemed out of place. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice wavering with suspicion. "Just a visitor," he replied, his eyes never leaving the rock. He wasn't just another inhabitant of the shelter. He genuinely wanted what Leo had found. $500, he proposed, and I struggled to hide my shock. Feeling audacious, I countered $100. I half expected him to laugh or accuse me of greed. Instead, he simply began counting out the bills, meeting my price without hesitation. What could possibly make this seemingly ordinary stone so valuable? My instincts screamed that there was more to this story, and the unsettling situation compelled me to decline his offer, despite the lifeline that money represented. There was something off, something I couldn't quite pinpoint. Determined to unravel the mystery, I sought out Jack, a friend with a penchant for oceanography and geology. Surely he would have some insights. But upon inspection, Jack was as stumped as I was, leaving the enigma of the stone even more profound. Jack's exhaustive library on marine findings yielded no clues, leaving me feeling defeated. When I returned to the shelter, a gut-wrenching scene met my eyes. Our room was in shambles, possessions strewn haphazardly. My mother sat despondently amidst the wreckage, Leo nestled tightly in her embrace. In a haze of confusion and anguish, I tried piecing together what had transpired. One of the shelter's attendants informed me of a suspected robbery, but who would rob us? We had nothing of substantial value, or so I thought. A sinking realization hit me. It must have been the stone. Its allure was more potent than I had comprehended. To ensure its safety, I left it with Jack, and together we scoured the internet, seeking any similar incidents or lore surrounding such stones. Among local news articles, Jack unearthed a trend. Every few years, there were accounts of these pungent rocks being discovered, and each fetched a hefty sum. An image depicted a woman triumphantly displaying a stone, smaller than mine, which had fetched a staggering $10,000. The dots began to connect. Whatever this stone was, it was a prize many sought after. The revelation was astounding. The strange rock, ambergris, was essentially solidified whale secretions, prized in the fragrance industry. It was mind-boggling that something I'd stumbled upon at the beach could be so precious. With Jack's assistance, we reached out to potential buyers and collectors. The offers were astronomical. Figures in the hundreds of thousands were casually thrown around, leaving us stunned. The potential windfall was life-altering, but I hesitated, wary of making hasty decisions. Excitement bubbled within me, but I held back from telling my mother. I envisioned a heartwarming surprise, where our hardships would suddenly dissipate. But that evening at the shelter, my dreamy visions shattered. The mysterious old man from before ambushed me. His desperate eyes darted to my bag, greed apparent in every line of his face. As he grappled with me, panic surged. "I've already sold it," I lied, hoping to dissuade him. But my words only seemed to incense him further. He lunged, his intentions clear. Terrified, I braced myself for the worst, but the expected blow never came. Moments felt like hours, but when I dared to peek, the sight was nothing short of miraculous. Leo, my loyal companion, had tackled the old man, rendering him immobile. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I smothered Leo with hugs and praises. It dawned on me that from the start, Leo had been my guardian angel, even leading me to the ambergris which promised a way out of our financial predicament. The shelter swiftly notified the police about the assault. The old man, once taken into custody, was permanently banned from the premises. A sense of security enveloped me, but there remained the matter of the ambergris sale. Mustering my resolve, I checked my communication channels, teetering on the brink of accepting the $400,000 offer. But then, as if orchestrated by fate, a notification chimed in. A renowned perfume house was offering a staggering $500,000 for the precious find. Overwhelmed by emotions, tears of joy streamed down my face as I readily accepted their proposition. Life was taking a turn for the better, and I had Leo to thank for it.